first of all, warm welcome to both of you. My name is
Thank
Ragini,
you.
and I'm an editor at SheThePeople TV. We are back with yet another edition of Small Screen Fest, and today we have two wonderful actors who will be sharing their insights on OTT world and how it has emerged to be one of the greatest mediums of storytelling for today. Before we begin, let me quickly introduce you all to our guests. We have Ahana Kumra. She's an Indian film, TV, and theatre actor. She's best known for her role in as Leela in the 2017 movie Lipstick Under My Burqa. She is also featured in several web projects, including Rambaz, India Edge, Marzi, and Betal, and so on. Maanvi is also best known for FOMO shots, TVF's pictures, and tripling. I would like to start with Manvi. You know, my earliest memory of watching you on screen was during one of my sleepovers. I was 11 years old, and I remember I and my girlfriends huddled on a couch together and we were watching reruns of Dhoom Macha Dhoom.
What?
Amazed at that age because I was so fascinated to know that a girl band can exist in India. So I wanted to know from you, from that to now, you have played two craft roles that include sisterhood and girlhood. So tell me, have you seen evolvement of storytelling over these years?
No, yeah, you're right, Ragini, that for some reason I've also I realized very late that I've ended up doing a lot of shows or films that
Hmm.
have revolved around female friendships or shows about sisterhood and like you said. So and over the years, I think there's been a I mean, there's obviously the demand for this. More people want to see it, and because you have to realize that it is commercials at the end of it, right? So because maybe a Dhoom Macha Dhoom did well, that there were other shows like that, or maybe because there was demand for it, but there was no supply, that people felt that this was some white space that they needed to fill, and they kind of started making stories like that. So. I do think there are takers for these stories, and over the years that has only increased. The storytelling has become more nuanced. I feel
Hmm.
there are different aspects that people are trying to now portray, and especially when it comes to women telling women stories. They will obviously be much more nuanced because they're more experiential, than as and like this whole thing of like showing gray instead of just black and white for female
Yeah.
characters. That I think is something which is refreshing in today's day and age.
Yeah, that is refreshing, and it is refreshing to see this diverse roles that are coming up. When we talk about diverse roles, I want to mention Ahana's filmography because she has had Avroad, she has had Accidental Prime Minister, Official Siogiri, and so many things. Ahana, what is your take on female roles finally getting their spotlight, good spotlight?
Thanks, Ragini, and thank you for your question. Uh, I would like to begin with I feel like this is a really good time for actors and content creators, for people who want to make content and tell different kind of stories in India, because I think for a very long time we were stuck with stories that were so mainstream about, this macho man coming and saving the actress, and this whole
Hmm.
idea
Yeah.
of or else there was something called the parallel cinema, which is uh, try to tell you
Hmm.
different stories, but it was termed as parallel cinema, where stories about like another India were being told, about women were being told about, like, I think a part of a lot of storytelling which I remember watching as a child, because I was always very intrigued by you know Mirch Masala, Masoom,
Yeah.
a lot of these films that that I grew up watching, and I loved those films and I loved that cinema. And somewhere, even though a lot of commercial cinema is something that is being fed to us as individuals, because you grow up watching, like, the singing and dancing and the hero and the heroine romancing and everything. But I feel like there is a different storytelling that was also happening in India, but you're not really conditioned to or encouraged to watch that, till you don't stumble upon it. So I think this is a good time for a lot of women, a lot of content creators, people who want to just tell different stories. And right now, like, I feel like there cannot be a monopoly. I think anybody who has a good story and can make a good film will find its takers, will find its audience, will find a way into people's hearts and onto people's screens. And honestly, you really have your phone screens in your hand, you have the remotes in your hand. So if you don't like a story, you can move on, you can, kind of fast forward, you can just, choose not to watch something. So I feel like the decision maker is really the audience at the moment. And I think they've kind of made it very clear that they want to hear different stories.
Yeah, and when I talk about women and storytellers, we had screenwriter Ishita Moitra before this panel, and she shared an interesting insight on how there were hardly any female artists on sets when she started her career. But today, women are taking the charge behind the camera and also on screen. uh, do you think the chances of having relatable storylines is because there's a subtle female gaze on our stories and on our characters?
I think 100% Ragini, because honestly, when I remember Lipstick Under My Burqa was my first film that I did, like my first feature, and it had a lot of women on set. We had like, I mean, I'm mentioning this, but everybody used to get mood swings together. It was so funny. So there were a lot of things that a lot of us were experiencing together because there were so many women on set, and that was the first time I was like, wow, there's so many women on set, and like there's so much of estrogen, like that's being circulated around on this entire set. And apart from like only female actors, we had a lot of crew members. Our director was a woman, and the way she saw scenes and the way she kind of directed made me very comfortable. Considering my first role was a very, I've been termed as like, oh, what a bold role you did, and all those kind of things that come along with it. But it was a lot to do with my director, who made me feel very safe. My co-actor Vikant, who again made me feel very safe, and he made me feel very comfortable. And when a woman directs scenes like the kind of scenes that I did, had it been directed by a man, it would have been very different.
Yeah.
But because the way Alankrita saw a certain scene, it became very different. It had a very different communication. It had a very different tone to it, or like a
Hmm.
voice to it. And I remember like there were lots of things that I could discuss with her that I think as a woman sometimes you find it hard to discuss with a man, and it can get uncomfortable. But I mean, I've always been grateful that Lipstick Under My Burqa was directed by a woman, and she really set the tone for me. And I think for me, the biggest education was post the film. Once the film was almost releasing and it was banned and it was censored in India, and then we had a lot of panel discussions. That Ratna, Coco, me, Plavita, Alankrita, we were part of those panel discussions in different cities. And the different women we met and the conversations we had around them were absolutely incredible because it changed me. It changed me as a person, and I was like, oh, is this what women in cinema can do? So I think it gives you a lot of power when you, right in the beginning of your career, meet people who are like-minded, or they set the tone right for you. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I believe Manvi also went through similar when she had famous shots under her plate. Would you like to add something to it, Manvi?
Way, I mean, of course, we're talking about gender here, but I think anyway, we need a cross sectional aspect of storytelling, right? Why wouldn't we want? I mean, we want all types of stories to be told, we want all types of perspectives to be represented. And be it in terms of gender, be it in terms of caste, religion, social class, everything, we would want all stories to be told and let the audience decide. So I think yes, it's very refreshing that we finally have female creators, and not just actors leading, like Lahana said, that but also crew members, and and like I had a similar experience with Four More Shots Please season one, because the makers were very clear that this story is about four girls. The writers were women. The director was a woman. the DOP was a female. The creators, of course, were female. I mean, the whole crew was, it was beautiful. Like we had a blast. And like, and especially when it, whether, I mean, it's not just about intimate scenes, but when it came to intimate scenes, there was this sense of feeling secure, feeling safe, feeling extremely comfortable. And hats off to the boys of the show, be it the crew members or the actors, because they were equally, I mean, they were wonderful, right? Like how girls are on a regular set where the men are in majority. But it was really refreshing. And yeah, I think we needed that. We need more of it. And I wish we continue just telling all sorts of stories, and all sorts of gazes are represented.
Yeah, that is hopeful, and we do hope we get to witness more stories, more representations on screen.
Yeah.
This is something that I want to know from both of you. You both are popular faces on OTT, and OTT has been a game changer for many industry professionals. Uh, do you think somewhere it also broke down the mantle of stardom hierarchy, which still exists in films? As you know, here every individual is recognized equally. So do you think the star system exists in when it comes to OTT platforms?
Hannah.
Because I'm the controversial one. So
I'll just say
I
that
think like
leftovers.
it's like yeah, Manu was waiting for me to say it. But you know what? I'll tell you honestly, and I think Manvi will also agree with me. You know, when we started on OTT, I remember there was really nothing and nobody, and we didn't know where it's going to head. Honestly, I think we've all just jumped into it because we were just having so much fun. The creators were all, probably people who are our age, people who have done theater with us, people who've known us, so they didn't really cast us for अच्छा इसको एक्टिंग आती है कि नहीं, ये पॉपुलर है कि नहीं, ये इंस्टाग्राम पे इसके फॉलोअर्स है कि नहीं, none of that ever existed when we started out on OTT, I remember. But I think a lot has changed because of COVID. So in COVID, because I remember that I had like literally 5 releases, and I had done a lot of work on OTT and nothing was releasing. And suddenly things started releasing and I was like, why so much? Like, what is happening? How is it like this show
Suddenly
is
how
releasing?
it
Oh, this is, yeah, like suddenly, like, some director would call you and be like, oh, we are releasing this film on this particular platform, ye falana dimka. I'm like, what? ये तो like ये तो हमने कब की थी. So I realized there was a huge dearth of content on OTT and it suddenly started coming out.
Yeah.
And because I think everybody got into this habit during COVID, I mean, see, whatever said and done, it was 1.5 years, 2 years of sitting at home, watching, consuming content, doing your everyday work, having literally like a schedule, which I don't think a lot of people in urban India get that kind of opportunity to do that. Wake up in the morning, do ghar ka kaam, then, get into because I was staying with my sister and she's in a corporate job. So I saw literally like her doing this. She would like schedule like, all her meetings and everything. And then, go into watching something and then lunch break and then, whatever. And every night we would sit and watch one show. So we would like really binge watch or like complete a show. So I think like OTT became really big during COVID. And I think what happened is because films did not work after that for a while, because people had just gotten very comfortable about being on OTT. And I think when films stopped working, oh God, I'm getting really dirty looks from my co-actors. Can I continue this answer like in a bit? I have to finish this shot. I'm so sorry about this, Ragini. Why don't you take a answer from? Why don't you
Yeah,
let
yeah.
Manvi
Waiting for
answer?
Yeah.
There, I'm already getting dirty looks. Okay.
yeah. No, so I obviously I agree with everything that Ahana said, but just to add to that, I think that I mean, firstly, speaking of how comfortable we've gotten with working offline, or sorry,
Yeah.
working online is like I'll give you an example. When I first heard that we are doing this on stream, I was so
Hmm.
happy. I was like, oh, thank God, I don't have to go anywhere. I just have to get ready. My top half. I mean, it's
Yeah.
what we do through the pandemic. So yes, I'm definitely one of those people who got really used to consuming content at home and even creating content from home. But I feel, to answer your question about whether the star system or the star hierarchy, that structure, whether it exists on OTT. So of course, when we started out, I don't think it existed. Um, but I think over time there was an attempt to kind of bring that in, with a lot of Bollywood actors and actresses coming on to OTT and trying to, do web shows. I think it is slightly coming in now, but I also feel that, with OTT, there's just you have so much variety to choose from. That I don't think anyway, like be it films or be it OTT, I think the star structure in itself is, I think, collapsing now. Also because of social media primarily, because everyone is just like a button away. We're putting ourselves out there, and people are seeing us in our most vulnerable. I mean, depending on the kind of content we are curating on our social medias. But I think that's um, anyway. I think the star culture is kind of going. We don't have that mystery around. I mean,
Mm,
star system was defined by that, right? That, oh, like, what does he eat, or what does she
mm,
what is her skincare routine, or what does, I mean, there were all these questions that are now like out there, like we know pretty much what's happening. So of course there's still curiosity about stars and their lives, but I think that star culture is in general dissipating.
yeah. Okay. Uh, I don't know if Ahana, where is yeah, but this was my last question, and it was also directed to both of you. I wanted to know, if there's a story or a genre that you would like to see more on OTT, which has not been tapped yet.
Oh, there are lots. I think there's no dearth of stuff that we can do, on OTT. Of course, like there's like the options are infinite, I feel. But I think a really good relationship drama, like, let's say, like the film Marriage Story, or there's a film called Malcolm and Marie, like these, I mean, which are production wise smaller, that you just have a few characters, but you're going deep into the relationship intricacies, and the good, the bad, the ugly. So that is something I would like to see more of. And we, again, like, we have so many things, like a plethora of choices to choose from. Also, I think a good comedy, like um, like a really subtle but witty and very smartly written comedy, maybe, and well performed, of course, like a really sharp comedy, which is just like, it's just so heartening sometimes to see a really good comedy. Like, I love that. What else? Mm, I would personally like to see, I would like to do, actually, I would love to do either a sports based film or a dance based film, or both. So I think that is something we can, now that we have OTT, we have a medium where we can experiment, we can try things that we were maybe afraid to try before. So that would be lovely to see.
Yeah, and also Malcolm and Marie was also shot during COVID. It was also shot in a very isolated space with
Correct,
just
correct.
two,
Yeah,
and at a point it got so discomforting to watch it. कि,
yeah,
okay, hard truths are being spoken, and I think we are there in terms of storylines. We can create such content here in India.
yeah.
Let's.
Of course, that's like, I know we can do it. Like, and we're there. We're on the right path, I feel. And I know there are people who are trying to do these things, who are trying to, uh, in fact, like sci-fi, for example, like a good science fiction show or a film is again something that I would love to like sink my teeth into, like, and not just as an actor, but also as a viewer. So yeah, that is again some, and again we have so much material to dig into.
Yeah, right, right. I'll just
I don't think Ahana will be able to come up.
yeah, Ahana is joining in.
Can you guys hear me?
Aage.
हाँ. Sorry, मेरा shot चल रहा था. I had to literally run into the shot and come back.
How versatile you are.
See,
Oh,
versatility. literally on the road.
Yeah.
No, so I was. I mean, I'd like to like continue my answer, and I'll make it really quick because we have to again head back. But whatever Manvi said is right. We're seeing a lot of Bollywood actors trying to make their debuts on OTT. Whether it would be the biggest stars, and you would have never imagined them even doing like their debuts on OTT. And you suddenly like suddenly like every day there's like a new announcement. Aaj ye star, aaj wo star, and everybody wants to make the debut because I feel like the reach has become so insane, and they're trying to connect with that new audience, that has suddenly moved from theaters and cinemas onto TV screens, or like the small screens that you hold on to. But having said that, yes, I feel at the moment what is happening is like, because I'm telling this out of personal experience, when they come to us nowadays, they are like, oh, why don't you? So this Falana star wants to make their debut, and this is the role that they are offering, and I'm just like, I don't want to do that, because this is something
Hmm.
that I have done. I've owned this space, I've been a part of this space, and I don't see myself wanting to play a second lead to this particular star, and the star might be wanting to make a debut, but I don't think I'm comfortable doing that. But that's again a choice that as an actor we need to make. So I think like consciously what is happening over a period of time is that now, apart from the shows that we already were doing, the newer shows where they're trying to cast like the so-called the Bollywood stars, they are trying to be, and I'm not saying that they are wrong, because they're also trying to figure out, ki bhai kya nahi chal raha hai. Why is it that the OTT is also working so much? And somewhere I also feel, nice to see the fact that they are not getting stuck to those stories, which I think for the longest time, I think even the women, who have been stars on in films have been wanting to tell stories which could be longer formats or could be
Yeah,
performance oriented, which probably they didn't have those
absolutely.
opportunities doing. So I think somewhere even they are, perhaps they've craved for that part to be explored. But having said that, yes,
Hmm.
I mean, I do agree. Like a lot of stars are now trying to, foray into OTT, and a lot of makers are now trying to make this a whole Bollywood setup, which I think may collapse if it continues for a long time. If they don't, because by the end of the day, OTT is all about stories, it's all about performances, and if they cannot deliver, those shows don't work. So it's really as
Yeah,
simple as that. Our audiences are too smart. They reject things so easily. So you're gonna be careful about what you make.
yeah.
And the second question, I think, what was the second question
Yeah,
about?
it was a part of this. I wanted to add on to that. That was our last question for the panel. Is there a genre or a story that you would like to see more on OTT which hasn't been tapped yet? And
I think
I would also,
OTT. Sorry, go on.
yeah, I would also answer Manvi's. I'll give you the answer that Manvi gave it, and
I heard, I heard everything Manvi said. I was on mute. I was listening. No, I agree with what Manvi says. I think first of all, the OTT is really scared to make comedy because it's a lot of hard work. It's very difficult to write a comedy. And I've done a comedy show which has done exceptionally well. And I think over a period of time, like I go to the remotest cities in India because I keep traveling all the time. And I go to the remotest places and they're like, oh, you've done sandwich. Oh, you've done sandwich. And I'm just like, yeah, and it's so fun because, that show was not promoted. The show was not even spoken about, but people organically started watching it. And,
No, I
and I
don't
was, and
know. What is? I've never heard of this show.
it's
I
a show
I
called,
even
it's
had
a
it
damn
not
good
known.
show. Manvi, you'll
I
love
would.
it. It's a show
Oh,
called
if
Sandwich
it's a good
Forever.
comedy, I would love to.
There I've given.
Yeah.
So you know what? And when I did the show, I kid you not, it was so difficult to get your comic timing right. I could not change my sentences. I could not change my dialogues. I could not change my delivery. There were six actors. It was a sitcom. We shot it during peak COVID, and it was absolutely magical to do that show. It was so interesting because it felt like I was doing a play. It literally felt like one day we
Oh,
used to come into a full rehearsal, do blocking and everything. The next day we used to come and shoot the entire episode. And
Okay.
all you needed was good actors, around you. And I had, thankfully, we were blessed with very good actors, and we got to learn every day from each one of them. And I had so much learning on that show. And I kid you not, I miss being a part of that show because I'm just like, I had such a blast doing it. It was very
hmm.
stressful. It was very hectic to shoot it because there are lots. It's very difficult to write comedy. It is so difficult in India. We're obsessed with thrillers and क्राइम ड्रामाज एंड लाइक हम कोई बिहार की स्टोरी बना देंगे, हम कोई यूपी की स्टोरी बना देंगे, हम किसी को मार डालेंगे, फिर हम सब लोग बैठ के उसकी किलर को ढूंढ रहे होंगे. बिकॉज I feel it's easy to write that compared to a comedy. It's very difficult to write a comedy. Again, the same thing that I again second Manvi what she says. Sports dramas. We do not make sports dramas. Why? Why are only men wanting to play cricket? Why are only men wanting to play football? Why are only men trying to play hockey or whatever the hell? I think there is a really big space that we do not explore, and that is sports drama. We do not explore it. We are very scared to make sci-fi. We're very scared to make things like, I'm just watching extrapolations and I'm just like, wow, here is a show that they've made on the future, that there's climate change is a real thing. And and we experience it every day now that we're shooting. Suddenly, like, things are happening, things are changing, climate is changing every day. So I feel like there's so much that we can do, but we're stuck with thrillers and we're stuck with crime dramas. I think we need to move past that.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, we have had interesting conversation. We have had so many nice things to hear about the digital world, and thank you so much for having here, for being here, for giving us time, and best of luck.
Thank
Thank you,
you. Thank
Ragini. And see you soon, Manvi.
you. See you. I hope it's not
Welcome
raining
to
when I.
Guldasta. No, it's not been raining. My friend Sunny Paji is here.
Chalo, bye. See you guys.
Chala, see
Thank
you
you
soon.
for
Bye.
having us.
Bye. 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 Say bye to Bhavya.
Costume dada.